Morena koutou. Welcome to my channel. I'm Joanne Hakaraia and we come to you live every morning, every weekday morning at 7 a.m. So the channel is raw and natural. There are no edits. So let's get into it. So today, what came to me is a quote. I heard a quote, and it's a quote that I've been sitting with for a while, and it's a woman called Martha Wilcox. She wrote she had some writings, and one of her quotes was, my business is an expression of me. My business is an expression of me. And she had beautiful kōrero to go with it. And I sat with that because I realized that even though she would have written that in the early 1900s, back then they were going through a similar ascension back then, similar but not quite the same. But it was when a lot of insights were coming through to help to make changes in the world with specific events that seemed to be likely to play out. So these insights came to her. So things that were written back in the early 1900s are quite relevant with what's going on here, especially as we are moving into the fifth dimension. So we're going to talk briefly about the third and fifth dimension today also. But the reason I want to talk about my business is me, my business is an expression of me, is because, and you can change the word business to the work that you do, the art that you create, the writings that you do. But I just want to use the word business because I feel that business, especially in the fifth dimension and coming from that perspective, is quite different now to how we looked at it in the third dimension. And I think there's a bit of confusion around how we see our businesses. So I really like this quote from Martha Wilcox, and I sort of delved deeper into it, and it's very similar to the I am that I am, and the quotes that express who we are. So just moving back to that quote, our business is an expression of who we are, especially in the times that we are now, and especially if you are coming from the dimension of the fifth dimension, which is a higher vibrational field where we are looking. Our perspective of the world through the lens of our eyes is at a higher vibration, where we see things differently to how we did when we were on the third dimension. So the third dimension is the dimension where we lived for hundreds of years, and it's purely physical, where we felt. We used all of our sensory organs, where we felt everything. So this is where our physical pain is. This is where trauma is. This is where the stories that we keep relaying to hold us in the physical world. This is about the third dimension. We see the world differently. We see a lot of pain. We see the chaos, and we don't see the bigger picture of what is actually going on. When how everyone was living back then, not that I knew about that, but just hearing stories about it was very, very physical. Everything was earthbound, like we felt everything and we thought differently. We didn't think about spiritual things as much as we do now back then. So let's move back to the time that we are now and just think about the third dimension and how you connect with the third dimension, or how you have connected to the third dimension. And as time went on a few years ago, and for others, the timing is different for everybody. But in the last few years, in the last 5 years, the moving into, or the transcending into the fifth dimensions ramped up, and we could feel that we were moving into this higher vibration of field of living. We could feel ourselves doing that, and we were subtly getting the nudge to let go of things that anchored us in the third dimension, in the earth field. In the earth field. So we were to let go of anything that anchored us, and anything that wasn't in alignment with our heart space. So we had to know what was in the fifth dimension for us. We needed to know how to align with our truth, how to align with our soul purpose, and to understand that to move into the fifth dimension was about letting things go in the third dimension. So things like relationships, places of living, careers, jobs, the way you thought, your inner being, the work that you did on the inner self ramped up as well. And we had to really think differently to be able to move into the fifth dimension. And some of us felt the call to go in there, and some of us didn't. And both are okay. But some of the ones that felt the call to go into the fifth dimension really felt a longing for it. Like it was the new world, it was the new earth. And to move into that fifth dimension meant that a lot of things had to change in your environment, a lot of things. And so a lot of inner work, a lot of healing took place over a number of years for some, a number of months for others, to be able to move into that field, move into the fifth dimension. Then as you moved into the fifth dimension, it was like going in and out of the fifth and the third dimension, because being able to maintain that level of high vibration was quite challenging, And so many things had to happen to be able to maintain that MAURI, that high vibration. So many things. And everybody's journey was different. Everybody's journey is different. And it always is. And what works for some may not work for others. But what was happening over the past few years is that there was a longing to move into that dimension, and an urgency to let loose, cut loose all of the old ties that held you anchored in the third dimension. And that would be things like, we talked about those, things like jobs and relationships. But what other things are anchors? Are houses, things, stuff that we always have to carry with us, or we couldn't do without. Those are also anchors, because they keep you in one place, and they don't allow you to free flow. So that was just a brief cordial about the third and fifth dimension, and how it matters, how it sort of relates to what I'm talking about, where my business is me, is that now we're looking at our business and the work that we do from the fifth dimensional living, from the fifth dimensional space. And for me, it was quite confusing, because, in the third dimension, we're taught to do certain things in a certain way, and how to be in your business, and you have to be business orientated and learn all these things, and it's all about numbers, and for me, that really wasn't me. And so to come from the fifth dimensional way of thinking is to look at your business holistically, to look at it spiritually, and as an expression, as an extension of ourselves, of ourselves and to really keep your business in alignment with truth, because your business is the concrete evidence, which is another term that Martha Wilcox uses. She says it is the concrete evidence of everything that is going on in our thinking, in our alignment with truth, with the divine. So some of the questions to ask is, when you look at your business or the mahi that you do, the work that you do, is the divine present in the space? Is the divine presence, is the divine present in the space that you have created for people to enter into, for people to come into? Do they feel safe to come in? Are the doors open for them? I'm saying these questions because these are the things I had to look at within myself, within my own businesses, is that I kept closing the doors because I didn't really want to be seen. But I was being called to connect with people more physically, to be able to do the mahi that I did. And so I kept only opening the door slightly to let people in, and then I would close it. And so I'm just learning that, yeah, I kept the doors closed, and now I have to open them wide and allow people to come in, because when we look at people, they are expressions of the divine also. They are expressions of the divine also, connecting with you in your expression of your business. They're connecting with you to be able to collaborate, help each other, support each other, a number of things. So I had to look at that within myself. Are the doors open? Do people feel safe to come in? And once they're inside, how long do they stay? What are the questions that they ask you? What are the conversations that come up? Because conversations within your business are really important to reflect on, because what you've created in your business is a space of sacredness, and whatever you're creating the space for, you will know from the concrete evidence of the people that come in and kōrero with you, with the conversations that are being had with you, whether that space is in alignment with what is in alignment with you. So I found that really interesting, and it's we can look at our environment anywhere, in our whare, with our relationships, our whānau in the house, to see how we are, because we're expressing the divine. It's an expression of us in the house as well, isn't it? Everything that goes on in the house is still an expression of us and what you've created. So you can change it from the business into the home that you're in as well. But I quite like the business model. So this is a new business model from the fifth dimension, is to see where the divine is in your business. See where the sacred is in your business. Bring the sacred in. And if it's not there, how can you bring the sacred into that space? It could be through, or it definitely always is through you. But looking at your business, how can you bring the sacred into your space and to align with truth? This is coming from the fifth dimensional way of a business model. So I hope you enjoyed that little kōrero. I found it really important. It's really, really important to think about now when you're with the mahi that you're doing, is because the third dimension and the way of thinking in that space is really falling away. It's not being able to be sustained. It just cannot it just cannot go on like that. And that's what we meant by the third dimension falling away. People thought that cities were going to be taken out, people were going to be taken out. It was quite confusing. But what it means is that it's just a different way of seeing the world. It's about raising your vibration to see the world in a different way. And just going back to the third and fifth dimension, Caroline Myss, she always talks about the apartment. You know, she's got 12 floors, and the first floor is about seeing the world from the first floor, which is the third dimension, seeing everything from the first floor. And you only see certain things on the first floor of an apartment building. You see the road, and you get the smells of the rubbish and other things, and pollution on the first floor, and the noise of the cars, and all of these things you see, and you hear the screaming or loud conversations of others, is all on the first floor. This is Caroline Myss's model, and I really, really love it because she really illustrates the third and fifth dimension, especially on the floors. So first floor, seeing everything physically and hearing everything physically, smelling, and it may not be, it's coming at you, right? It's coming at you. But as you move up the floors, your vibration is changing, but there is work to be done, inner work to be done to be able to move up those floors. So when you move, because you have to sustain that vibration, you have to sustain the vibration to move up to the floor. You might get a glimpse of it, the view from the second floor, but to maintain it, your vibration has to change, which means things have to change in your thinking. Your environment may need tweaking. So that's what we mean about moving up to the second floor. But she also mentions that if you move to the top floor, the top floor, the view is so different that you get to see, it's expansive, and you get to see so many other things for miles. You might see sunsets and sunrises. You might see beautiful mountains or rivers and things that you wouldn't have seen if you were on the first floor or the second floor or the third floor. But once you get to the top floor, which is around the fifth dimension, there are more higher dimensions, but we'll just use the fifth dimension. Once you get to the fifth dimension or the top floor, your perspective of the world changes. You see so many things differently. It's just amazing. You see so much beauty and magic, and you see the magic of creation. You see the beauty of the divine, and you see the sacred. You really, really do see that. And every now and then you come back down to the first floor because of whatever reasons you come back down to the first floor. But because you've maintained your vibration at that higher level, you're able to look at the first floor from the higher vibration, from the higher floor. You're able to look at it, know that you're there, and then return back to the higher dimension. Always observing, so not to get stuck on that first floor. So I know when I'm stuck in the first floor now, my body really, really tells me when I'm out of alignment with my truth. It really tells me, especially with certain emotions. I can really feel it, and I acknowledge it, and I do something about it to come out of that space because it just doesn't support us anymore. It just doesn't support us anymore. And when you're in the higher vibration, in the fifth dimensional living, so many other things happen. Like the people that you meet are on the same way of thinking, and the places that you go, just your perspective of life changes. And I think I'm going to end this kōrero here today because I've gone 20 minutes and I think that's enough for today. And perhaps we might continue the kōrero over the next few days. But please make a comment. Thank you for the ones that make comments and share with me how they feel about what I say. That really encourages me and inspires me to continue. I will keep continuing with the kōrero only because I know this is my practice. It's my practice because the more that I do this, the more I'm connecting to the sacred, and that's my practice. So thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Ka kite anō.